Once upon a time, nestled by the banks of a wide, shimmering river, lived a clever fox named Remy and a proud crocodile named Cassian. Remy, with his bright eyes and quick mind, believed that intelligence was the greatest power in the world. He was convinced that a sharp wit could solve any problem. Cassian, on the other hand, with his immense size and powerful jaws, believed that strength was everything. He felt that brute force was the ultimate solution to any challenge life threw his way. Remy spent his days outsmarting other animals for a tasty berry or a juicy fruit. He would create clever little traps and elaborate plans, and he always succeeded. He'd often watch Cassian from the river bank, shaking his head. "Look at him!" Remy would mutter to himself. "All brawn and no brain. What a waste of potential." Meanwhile, Cassian would patrol his stretch of the river, his powerful tail creating ripples in the water. He would snap up fish with incredible speed and strength, scoffing at the fox's seemingly silly games. "That little fox," Cassian would rumble to his reflection, "always thinking and plotting. Why not just take what you want? Strength is the only thing that truly matters." Their days continued like this, a silent, distant rivalry between wit and might. They lived in the same world, but saw it through completely different eyes. They never spoke, but they were always aware of each other, each confident that his own way was superior. One scorching summer, the river, their source of life, began to change. The once mighty current slowed to a lazy crawl, and the water level dropped day by day. A long, unexpected drought had gripped the land. Soon, the part of the river where Cassian lived became too shallow, and the fish he relied on disappeared, seeking deeper waters downstream. At the same time, the plants and berry bushes on which Remy depended began to wither and die under the relentless sun. For the first time, both the clever fox and the strong crocodile found themselves in real trouble. Remy's clever plans to find food were useless when there was no food to be found. He dug for roots, but the ground was as hard as rock. He tried to trick birds, but they had all flown away in search of greener lands. Hunger gnawed at his belly, and his famous cleverness offered no comfort. Cassian's situation was just as dire. His incredible strength was useless against the shrinking river. He couldn't command the water to rise or force the fish to return. He tried to travel downstream, but a huge, fallen tree, a casualty of the drought, blocked the entire width of the river. It was too massive for him to move alone, its tangled roots and thick branches creating an impassable barrier. He was trapped, growing weaker and more desperate with each passing day. One afternoon, a weary and hungry Remy was walking along the dry riverbed when he saw Cassian, looking defeated. The huge crocodile was lying near the giant fallen tree, his usual pride replaced by a look of despair. Remy, despite his own hunger, felt a flicker of something new pity. He cautiously approached. "It seems your strength has met its match," Remy said, his voice softer than he intended. Cassian opened one eye and let out a tired sigh. "And your cleverness hasn't filled your stomach, You look as thin as a reed." For a moment, they just stared at each other, the shared misery hanging in the air between them. The old rivalry felt pointless now. "That tree," Remy said, nodding towards the massive obstacle. "It's blocking the way to the deeper parts of the river, isn't it? Where there's still water and fish." Cassian grunted in agreement. It's too heavy. I've pushed and pushed, but it won't budge. Remy walked around the fallen tree, his sharp eyes examining it from every angle. He saw how the tangled roots were wedged against a large rock on one side, acting like an anchor. He noticed how the main trunk was precariously balanced over a smaller, jagged rock in the middle. An idea began to form in his quick mind. "Strength alone won't move it," Remy said, a spark of his old self returning. "But maybe we don't need to move the whole thing." He turned to Cassian. "Your power is incredible, but it's unfocused. You're pushing against the strongest part. What if we work together?" Cassian was skeptical. "Work with you? What can a small fox do that a mighty crocodile can't? You can provide the power, and I can provide the plan," Remy explained patiently. "Look, there." He pointed with his nose. "The trunk is resting on that sharp rock. If you can lift the end of the tree just a little, and I can dig away the earth from under the roots on the other side, the weight will shift. With enough pressure on that center point, the trunk might just snap." Cassian looked from the tree to the fox. It was a strange idea, but his own methods had failed. He was desperate enough to try anything. "All right, little fox, show me what to do." And so, the unlikely partnership began. Following Remy's instructions, Cassian positioned himself at the end of the tree with a mighty roar that echoed through the valley. He used all his strength to heave the heavy trunk upwards. It was an immense effort, and his muscles strained, but he managed to lift it just a few inches off the ground. At the same time, Remy was frantically digging at the opposite end, his paws a blur as he clawed away the dry, compacted earth around the roots that were anchored against the large rock. Dust flew everywhere, but he didn't stop. "A little longer," Remy yelled, his voice muffled by the dirt. Cassian grunted, his strength beginning to fade. "I can't hold it forever." Finally, Remy cleared enough earth. The roots, now unanchored, slipped free. The entire balance of the massive tree shifted. With a groan of splintering wood, the immense weight came down hard on the sharp rock in the middle. There was a loud crack, and then a sound like thunder as the giant trunk snapped in two. The way was clear. Exhausted, they both collapsed. Cassian panted on the riverbank, and Remy lay on the ground, his fur covered in dust. A slow trickle of water began to flow through the newly created gap, a promise of the deeper pools that lay ahead. After a long silence, Cassian turned his head toward Remy. "Your plan. It worked." There was a new tone in his voice, one of respect. Remy managed a weak smile. "Your strength made it possible. I could have stared at that tree for 100 years and never moved it an inch." That day, something more important than the river was unblocked. It was the wall of pride and misunderstanding between them. They traveled down the river together. Cassian, with his strength, easily cleared smaller debris from their paths, while Remy, with his sharp eyes, spotted the best pools for fish and pointed out the easiest paths along the bank. They shared the food they found. Cassian would catch large fish and leave one on the bank for Remy. Remy, in turn, would find patches of surviving berry bushes and call for Cassian to come and rest in the shade while he gathered fruit for them both. They learned to talk to each other, not as rivals, but as friends. Remy discovered that Cassian wasn't just a brute. He had a deep knowledge of the river's currents and seasons. Cassian learned that Remy wasn't just a trickster. His cleverness came from a place of curiosity and a desire to understand the world. When the drought finally broke and the rains returned, the river swelled back to its glorious, powerful self. Life returned to the valley, more vibrant than before. Remy and Cassian remained by the river, but their lives were forever changed. They were no longer just the clever fox and the strong crocodile. They were a team. Their story became a legend along the riverbank, told from one generation to the next. It was a story that reminded everyone that intelligence without strength can be powerless, and strength without intelligence can be reckless. True power is not found in being the strongest or the smartest, but in the humility to recognize the value in others and the kindness to help each other succeed. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. We'll see you in the next video.